Hello, my name's Duncan and welcome to Bath Books and welcome to the chaos that is Donkey Towers. Last week I started sorting out this room. This room is art room come library come everything else, office, whatever. And I've been sorting it out. But this morning I wanted to record a video because I said I've not done one for a week and I'm trying to catch up on stuff. And what happened was I broke the adapter that adapts my iPhone to the tripod. And so I've done a bit of a bodge job and I'm using the camera on my iMac I have never used before. So this is probably what it would look like if I ever did a live stream, though I'd probably set up a bit better because I've had to sort of angle it back so you can't see all the crap that's over that side of the room at the moment because it's all piled up. But yes, so that didn't go very well. But I wanted to do a video anyway, so if the sound's bad or the picture's bad, I apologise. I will try and do anything I can in post-production. Also, if my eyes drift weirdly, it's because I'm looking at myself on the screen, which I'm not used to, because normally I look into the lens of the iPhone, so it's just all a bit weird. But it's been a bit of a sort of, I said I've been doing all that stuff this week. I said I'm way behind on some videos I want to do, but getting this room sorted is quite a priority for me, and I've had some other things going on personally, which is all things all do, but it's not been too bad anyway. I'm going to have a sip of drink a second because it's been stressful. I nearly threw some brandy in this because it was getting so stressful earlier. So, one thing I was doing from last week was I was finally reading Jack Vance's Die on Earth, which for some reason I've never read before. From this. Okay. Sorry, because I'm looking at myself on the camera, it's very strange. I probably should hold it on that side because I have more room on that side. Let's try on that side just for a change. Yeah, Die on Earth, it's a compendium of all the books. What I've done is I've read the first, what is technically the first book, which is called The Dying Earth, and I've stopped at that point. So that, because there's 4 of the novels in here. And the first one is like a collection of sort of linked short stories-ish, all set into the background of the Earth dying and what have you. And I wanted to write a piece for my blog and also maybe do a video just on that one. So I didn't want to go to the next part while this bit was fresh in my mind. So I started to do some notes and things on that. So I've actually stopped that there. I said after the first book, and then I'll get into the other ones because I just wanted to do one on that a separate book rather than do one on the whole anthology because it's really interesting. The first one, it almost to me reads like very fairy tale-ish, but quite dark and fairy tale fantasy. It's like, if you've not read it, it's quite unlike a lot of things you'd ever read. So yeah, so I need to go back to that side. So I'm continuing with the Dying Earth. I'll probably give it a break for a few weeks now because I'm going to do a write-up and hopefully do a video on that. And I had also, I've been reading, which I haven't got by me, which is the British Science Fiction in 100 books, which has been really enjoyable. So I've been reading that along as well. And the other thing I did is I picked up some books online recently, and one of them I picked up was, I've mentioned this before, probably you've heard me talk about this, Broken Lance by Frank Gruber, book that I read as a child. And I said I think I read it probably, and I finally managed to find one with the cover I wanted. And it's been really hard to get hold of. So I'll put it on that side as I'm trying to do, but I'm like, ooh, strange. Sorry, because I'm just looking at things. And I love that cover. Let's show you the cover a little clearer. It's gorgeous, and probably the artist got paid an absolute pittance at the time. But what is really interesting about this book is you've got the price tag on it, 25 pence, English pence there. And there's no barcode on the back. It doesn't tell you when it was published, but barcodes came in the UK 1979 when the first one was done, so late 79, what have you. But I discovered on the back of it, there is what looks like a price tag. I'll show you there. And hopefully I'll get a picture of the logo in a second. And there's a logo from a British shop called Woolworths that went out of business about 10 years ago. It'd been around for about a century, went out of business. I know there's an Australian shop called the same thing. I don't know whether there's one in America, but they're totally unrelated. But the logo on this, I had a look because I am that pedantic. the logo on this price tag actually was used between 1970 and 1985. Okay, so I know that this book was brought in Woolworths between 1970 and 1985. Actually, before 1979, because there's no barcode on it, which I think is quite. But what's quite interesting is it's got a price on it, 10p, which is quite strange because at the time, Britain had the net book agreement. I think it's called the net book agreement, and basically all books were sold at a price that was agreed with the publishers on the back. I will show you another book. It's got 50p on the back there, and that's how much it would have cost. And what it was, the net book agreement, which was a great thing as far as I'm concerned, was brought in 1900, and it was stopped in 1995. And basically, it was a price agreement between the publishers and the government about the price books would be sold at. So when I was a kid, all books had a price on them, and that was the price you paid. They weren't allowed to be discounted, and they were only discounted for certain things if they were damaged or stuff like that, very rarely. This one has a price of 10 pence on the back of it, so obviously some reason they managed to discount that. But the net book agreement, as I said, was an agreed price. And what it used to do was, because they had these agreements in, it managed to fund less popular works. You know, because you were paying the same sort of money across the board for the price they'd agreed, you know, due to page counts and sizes and stuff like that. And so the popular books would sell at that price, and some of the money overlap from that would help to fund less popular ones. And I said this went on until 1995. In 1995, a shop called Dillon's, along with Waterstones, basically started going against the net book agreement, and then there was a court case, and it got taken away. And after that, they could discount books. The argument was at the time that, all the books we discount, you'll start getting great deals. Well, after that, basically, book sales went up a bit, but profits obviously went down because everybody was discounting books. And as far as I've seen since then, the only books that really get discounted a hell of a lot are ones from celebrity authors and things like this. You don't get sort of more obscure ones. And I know there's a big boom in self-publishing at the moment, and it seems to me that these people are getting screwed over by the likes of Amazon and Kindle that to publish things. So the net book agreement, in my opinion, in the long term, its cancellation has affected book sales because big publishers are less likely to fund more obscure things because money. But yeah, that's a short and brief history of the net book agreement, which they wouldn't bring back now, but they really shouldn't have got rid of. It's kind of a simple thing. But yes, so I finally picked up Broken Lance. I said Frank Gruber, I did a thing about his memoir a few videos back, and I'll put a link at the end of the video for that. I read this. I got it on Friday, and I read it, and I finished it yesterday, Saturday. It was a really nice, easy read. And I said last time I read this was when I was probably about 9 or 10 years old, and it was a really good read. It was a really fun read. It's a rollicking little adventure. Well written. Frank Gruber's really solid writer. And I said it was just real fun, and I'm going to look out for some of the other ones. What I found quite interesting was there was a couple of points in there. You can think of when it was written, because this was written in the 50s or 60s, I think. I don't think I said it's got no dates in this book at all. In the 50s or 60s. And so the attitude to Native Americans was a lot different than it has been more recently. But there are a few little bits in there. A few little bits where you see the Native American point of view about things. Because this is set around Custer's famous Last Stand. It's all a fictional account of a soldier on revenge. But that bit, there's just a couple of little Indians in there about them, a guy arguing, this is why the Native Americans are doing such and such. So it's quite interesting. What I will say about this book, it's on the worst paper stock I've ever known. It's very, very yellowed, as you can see. I've got a lot of quite old books yellowed, but the actual quality of the paper stock is terrible. And I don't think I've seen one on such bad and cheap paper stock that I actually own. But yeah, it's quite hilarious. So, a couple of the other ones that appeared. I'm interested in this. I quite like fantasy. I'm quite a thing of the travelogue. What I like to call travelogue fantasy. I Lord of the Rings when they travel the world looking for things on a little things. And I'd not read any Michael Scott Rohan. I'd heard good things about this, so I've got this book here. The first one, Anvil of Ice, which I don't know which way I'm turning it because it's showing it to me opposite, so it's really weird. But the Anvil of Ice, and it's part of the Winter of the World, and it's set in an icing. I just heard reasonably good things about it, so the artwork on the front is really good and reminds me in some ways like Ian Miller. But yeah, that's the first book. We'll see what that's like. And then we also have another book to my Fantasy Masterworks collection, number 41. And this is John Gardner's Grendel. And the fun fact for prog rock fans out there is obviously Marillion's classic track Grendel, 70 minutes long that it is, was based on this book. I have never read this, so I'm quite interested to get into it. It's quite a short book actually. It's 122 pages, so it might appear on my reads quite soon. I said I'm still working on some stuff for the Philip Red Dick stuff that I'm way behind on, but I said I've just had so much on with, I said we've had occupational therapist visits for my wife and wheelchair issues, and I'm sorting stuff out. But anyway, you don't want to know that. And the other one is a Star Trek novel by Sonny Cooper. I don't know the author, and it's Black Fire. And this is one of the ones from 1983. There was an article on Den of Geek a couple of weeks back about saying what a good year 1983 was for Star Trek books. And it's got me intrigued because I've read a few Star Trek books, and it's now got me thinking I'm going to read all the books from Star Trek from 1983. So that is the first one that was published in 1983, Black Fire. And I think this is one when basically Spock becomes a pirate or something. But yeah, I don't know when I'll get around to that, but I will at some point. A bit of a thing. It's very weird recording like this. I said I had to turn my iMac around because it's normally facing that way because there's so much stuff behind me. But in the future, if I ever considered doing a live stream or something with anybody else, I would obviously use this camera, but it will be set up slightly differently. Not anybody would want to see a live stream of mine. Anyway, I said, so I read Broken Lance, and I've just started. I wanted some, because of what's going on, I just want some easier read. So I went back and I read, for me, a classic from Harry Harrison, which is The Men from Pig and Robot. And look at that awesome artwork. Which is 2 novellas. Pig are the porcine investigation group or something. And this is also a Puffin book. Roy Reads Anything was on about puffins the other day. It's quite weird for a Harry Harrison book, even though a lot of his comedy stuff is easy readable by young people. First one I've seen a Puffin book. I've got copies of these 2 novellas in another Harry Harrison anthology, which I think might be the best of Harry Harrison. But I love this edition. I love that cover, and I might have to put this cover on a paperback parade and find out about the artist, because the artist is a guy called Peter Edwards, which the name rings a bell, but I don't know it. If you look at the back at it, you got these guys on these flying motorbike type things, with pigs charging towards them. What more do you want from a book cover? But I had a look at the back of this for Puffin books, and what's interesting is you've got a Spaceship Medic, which is no Harry Harrison one in Puffin, but they've got a Time and Stars, R.C. Clarke book, which I don't know. I'm not big on R.C. Clarke, so I'm not really up on all these more obscure ones. But they've got a Ben Bova book here. I'm amazed that Ben Bova was actually published by Puffin. And they've got Nicholas Fisk. Nicholas Fisk was an interesting author at the time. And then it's got a thing at the back for I think Roy mentioned about the Puffin Club. And you could join the Puffin Club, which is great. But yeah, that's the Men from Big and Robot. I don't know whether the light's going to look very good in here because it's quite dark outside because it's raining yet again. And so it's quite dark out there, and I've got some lights in here and trying my best. But I said I'm really not used to using this camera setup, and we will see how we go. I dread to think what it's going to be like when I'm whacking the editing software. So I'm not planning on doing much editing, but I'll see what I can do. And a couple of other things arrived, just some comic stuff this week. Which I'll open and show you. The next of the Blade Runner 2039 with some gorgeous Sid Mead art on the front. And is it this one? Yep. Forbidden Planet have a habit of sending two in the same plastic bag because they're a bit cheap, like that. And the other one I wish they'd hold them back and send them all at once rather than send them one at a time. They charge me bloody postage every time. This, I think, is a Star Wars comic. Yeah. Which I'm doing. I quite like the artwork on that one. What number up to? Number 31. So yeah, just thought I'd show you those because I had them there and I've not opened them yet. But yeah, that's been my week really. Reading wise, I've not done as much as I want to. It was nice to finish that first Dying Earth, and I said it's really quite interesting, and I'm quite looking forward to. After I got some notes and doing some writing and reading on that. I've not had time really to look around at much other people's videos really. I know there's been a few things flying around, but if you got to the end of this video, I think it's about 15 minutes long probably, and the quality isn't horrific. I am just going to leave you now and then go on Amazon and see if I can find a thing to put my phone in on top of my tripod. I said if my eyes are going left to right, it's because I don't know what I'm meant to be looking at, because I don't normally record like this. So thank you all very much, and I will speak to you very soon.